All right, so it looks like we're live. Let me just make sure here, because that's just the way I do it. I want to make sure that everything is up and running before I get going. This is an exciting Tank Talk Live tonight, folks. Sorry that I'm a little bit late. I'm not going to keep talking until I know whether or not I'm on. So here we go. Yep, there we are. All right. So yes, this is a very exciting Tank Talk Live tonight because I have a special guest. I had a great guest last week too, so it's no more exciting than it was last week, but this is going to be my first opportunity to actually talk saltwater with somebody who knows what they're doing. And I got to tell you, I could not be more excited about this. I've wanted to do this for a long time, and I have found it rather difficult to get anyone that is in the saltwater world to work with me. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that think I'm a jerk, and that's fine, but you know, getting people to help me out with this, not help me, I don't need anybody to send me anything or anything like that, but to help me, to just educate me on what I'm doing as far as saltwater fish goes, it's been absolutely impossible. So that's why I'm really excited to have my guest on here today. We are a little bit late because he is a football coach. He coaches his 9-year-old in Pee Wee football, and you know, it was running late, and hey, I mean, that comes before doing a live stream with some fish dude in King George, Virginia. Come on. So I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. Let's see. We've got 74 people already. This dude that is on tonight with me has some star power because 74 people already. Is everybody excited going on here? So let's see. Let me see if we got anything. Okay, so here we are. So folks, once again, I started 6 months ago reaching out to saltwater YouTube channels. The big ones, I understood when they told me no. The small ones, and when I say small, I mean channels that are 1,000 subscribers or smaller than that, and nobody wanted to answer me. Nobody. I would get either ignored or I would get told no. There was a couple of big channels that told me no, and you know, it is what it is. There was another big channel that told me yes, but then fell off the face of the earth. So this has been a struggle for me. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's because, you know, people keep coming in and it's growing. So repeating myself, that I am thrilled to have somebody on here tonight that can educate me on saltwater. I know you don't see any saltwater tanks behind me. Couldn't really make that happen. We'll talk about that in a minute. You get to see all of my freshwater tanks. Yes, I have moved things around in here, and you'll find out why that is sooner than later. But yeah, here we go. This is what happens when you're not working off of a script. So who is my special guest that I have on here tonight? The second guest that I have had on Tank Talk Live. We're talking about CJ from CJ's Aquariums. This is a guy that started out his channel, as far as I know, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but started out his channel as an African cichlid channel and as a freshwater cichlid channel. And he's kind of evolved into saltwater, and he keeps really nice reef tanks. He's got one behind him that you can't see yet, but I can, and it's really nice. So he's a perfect source for me to talk to about this kind of stuff. So CJ, I don't know if you have unmuted yourself yet, but go ahead and do that. And welcome to Tank Talk Live, my friend. I'm so glad you were willing to do this.
Yo, man, what's going on, everybody? This is CJ in the flesh. I know some of you guys don't know me from CJ's Aquariums. Got a baby upstairs screaming. Sorry about that, but we're gonna keep the show moving. I'm here.
Well, we were talking a little bit before we went live here, and I sent you fish a long time ago when I had my shop, and you did a really nice unboxing video for it and all of that. It's still on your channel. I checked, and that was really cool. When people were suggesting that you come on the show, it never registered to me that you were that guy, and that was really cool to kind of make that connection and be like, hey, wait a minute, I know this guy. Not only do I know him, I know his real name, but we won't share that on here because I know how that goes. But you know, you listened to me before. A couple of weeks ago, I've been trying to do this for a long time, but a couple of weeks ago on one of my live feeds, I asked my audience, who do you want to see as a special guest on Tank Talk Live? And we had, a few freshwater, of course, because that's what I've always focused on. But it was shocking how many people said CJ's Aquariums. And I think I know why. I think it's because they knew you were a good dude and you would work with me and we could do something like this, unlike others, I'll just say. So, but there might be a lot of people on here, even though you got suggested by quite a few people. There's probably people on here right now that have no clue who you are. So take this time,
Right.
introduce yourself, and tell us what you're doing, and you know.
Okay. All right. I'll take a second, and I guess I ain't gonna tell you to sell myself, but
Oh, sell it, man. Sell
yeah,
yourself.
there you go. But I started YouTube, I would say 3.5 or 4 years ago, I would say, you know, when I first started with Mbunas, and you know, just wanting to document, you know, just jumping in the hobby and wanting to have a starting point. You know, I see a lot of huge tanks out there that were great, and I just wanted to do the same. You know, start out with a guy with a camera. That's why I call myself just a guy with a camera and a YouTube channel. So, but started with Mbunas, and that was funny you mentioned that story. Your order was the first purchase that I ended up having online. So I was a little apprehensive about it. I was a little nervous, you know, because you hear all the horror stories, fish coming in, and took care of me. I think that was the mix up when I first put my order in. You know, something wasn't in stock. It wasn't stock. And you reached out to me, communicated right away, and got those fish healthy and grew those fish out. It was white top hares. So that was my first love, first way into the hobby. But since then, you know, ended up jumping right into saltwater. You know, I guess the reason for it was, you know, Mbuna at that point stopped being a challenge for me. You know, besides them fighting and bickering and killing each other, the drama, the level of attention they needed really wasn't as much as I was looking for. So at that point, ended up jumping into salt. Now, keep in mind, I do everything on my channel with my cell phone. Like I said, I got a cell phone in the tank. So I film, edit, record, live stream. I'm on it right now, actually. iPhone 6S Plus on Google Hangouts. So do everything from it. So if you want to check out my channel, a few things you'll find. One, I have a playlist covering that tank, that cichlid tank. I don't have it anymore, but it's still there for anyone that's curious. I got a playlist that will explain to you guys my whole editing process for anyone with a cell phone that, you know, is not documenting their tank yet, or, you know, have a YouTube channel. Watch that series I have. It's called Filming Tanks with Your Cell Phone. I completely explain my whole process, you know, in lamest terms. That's how I do everything on my channel for the average guy to understand. Check that playlist out. Then, of course, I got my saltwater tank playlist on there. I've had 2 tanks, actually 3 tanks. The first one didn't make it past a month or so. Ended up breaking and bowing on me. The second one ended up crashing. I killed everything after about 8 months. This tank's been up for about 14 months or so, and I've had my bumps, but I call it pretty successful. So, in a nutshell, that's me. I'm the guy with the cell phone. Happy to help anyone. Happy to talk to everyone.
This episode of Tank Talk Live sponsored by iPhone. Go to your local Apple store. No, I'm kidding. That's what I use too. I got mine right here. So, and I make my videos on my iPhone too. I mean, I was using a camera and you know, all of this different equipment and stuff like that. And I tried it with my phone one day and I was like, man, this is actually better quality than I've ever had. So yeah, I do the same thing. I don't record my audio with my phone, but all the video it's better quality with my phone than it would be on my camera. So that's
you can do audio too, man. I forgot to mention, you know, the studio. Got the best studio for you. Never thought about it. Let me see. Some of my subscribers, if they're watching, they'll probably tell you what my studio is in the chat. But that's the best place. I use my car.
The acoustics are perfect. Yeah,
exactly. Get away from screaming kids, and you know, as long as it's not 100 degrees outside, right? So,
well, I see the Louisville shirt. I could look in my records and find your address, but I'm not weird. Are you in Kentucky? Are you in Louisville?
Yes, sir. Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. Louisville, Kentucky, man. Born and raised in every city.
My brother-in-law graduated from Southern Seminary out there in Louisville. So, if you're in Louisville, I'm sure you know where that is.
Yep, sure do, man.
Well, we're not here tonight to talk about brother-in-laws becoming ministers, but I thought I'd bring that up. You know, I mean, hey, so, all right. So I had a few questions lined up for you here, and I know that the questions are going to create more questions, and it's just going to kind of evolve from there. But unfortunately, you answered the first 3 in your introduction. So, man, I'm getting nervous here. I'm going to run out of questions. But you said I'm going to pick on you a little bit here because you said you got tired of the amount of attention that Mbuna's required. And I know exactly what you mean. I mean, hello. So you went to a reef tank? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, isn't, from what I hear from everybody, and I'm not afraid of it, but from what I hear from everybody, it's twice as much work as an Mbuna tank would be. So explain that a little bit to me.
Yeah, I'll definitely clear that up. I guess I didn't explain it the right way. I should have said the lack of attention they require. I would say that, you know, once you got past the nitrogen cycle and understanding aggression with Mbuna, that was it. That's pretty much all you need to know. You know, there was no other challenge past that point. So that's when I start looking for, you know, salt, because you can create that ecosystem that has 20 or 30 different levels, starting from copepods, the little bitty guys, to the hermits, to the shrimp, to the fish, the corals. So many different things you can do besides just Mbuna with fish swimming. But, you know, that's it. That's the end of it. So that's kind of what I meant. I was looking for more of a challenge, I guess, if you want to say.
Well, I completely understand that. I mean, I know a lot of people that have been in this hobby for a long time and have never beat the challenge of Mbunas. So the fact that you were able to get past that, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, that shows that you're a guy that's dedicated to the hobby. You know how to take care of a tank, and that's a good deal. And that's, you know, you hit the nail on the head with, I think it's with all fish. You know, you can get things established and then it pretty much kind of goes on its own, and you do your normal maintenance and your normal routine and everything's all good to go. And, you know, with Mbunas, you do have the complications of the bickering and the aggression and the breeding and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on, I'm not asking you this as a question right now, but your thoughts as far as maintenance and all of that. Believe me, we're going to get into that. I don't want to keep you here too long because I know you just got home from practice and the kids are screaming and all of that. So I don't want to take up your whole evening, but we're going to get into.
Right. I told the wife we had, you know, I gave her a 2-hour window, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see who make it to 10. I also got to work tonight too. So we got 2. I got to go to work.
Oh yeah, that's right. You work those screwy hours. You work night shift, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
sir. So.
All right. Well, then I'll stop messing around and we'll just get right into this stuff. Let me read my question here because it's a long one. I don't know why I did that. Okay. So you follow my channel. We talked about that before. I got the Fluval M60 complete reef setup system. Got it back in October, I think, or November of no, what am I saying? It was late December, or maybe even, I don't know. It was a long time ago when I got this thing, but I didn't have my RO system yet, and everybody told me I needed an RO system, so saltwater tank kind of got put on the back burner, but I've had it running now for a couple of months, and it's been surprisingly easy. I mean, all I have in there is fish right now. I haven't tried to take it up a notch or anything. I have 2 fish in there. They are perfectly healthy. Everything's great. As far as the salinity and stuff like that, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to figure out how to get that to the right levels. So I've kind of mastered that. The tank's running. It's running fine other than some diatom algae that's in there right now. But what should I expect in the immediate or extended future if I was to just leave things the way they are and not add anything else? You know, what would I expect to see happen over the course of the next few months or whatever?
There you go. Hey, that's a great question, I guess, and a statement all in one. First, let me address a couple things. I remember you said, you know, it's easy with salinity and salt. I'm gonna tie everything I'm telling you from my own personal experience. I'm one of those guys that, you know, everyone can read forums and Google and all that stuff, but I try not to speak from places that I haven't personally experienced. So we'll stick with that.
Right on. You're just like me.
Speaking of salinity, you know, you're using a refractometer. Definitely recommend that. If you use one of those hydrometers with the swing arms, when you start getting into corals and all those kind of things, definitely don't want to do that. You get you a refractometer with calibration fluid. Had an issue with my tank that I had a refractometer that wasn't calibrated. Make sure that it reads and specific gravity and not bricks, because there's 2 different types of refractometers. For anyone that does not know, one is used, I believe, with beer making or brewing. doesn't show you this. You can use it, but trust me, it'll throw you off. But that's a quick rant on fractal meters. Highly recommend you use it for, figuring out your salinity. Now, as far as diatoms and what you should expect, it sounds like you're on the right track. I mean, I've looked back through some of you don't have many updates on your tank yet, obviously, because there's not a lot going on. So, but from what I can gather, you're off to a good start. As far as the rock placement and, diatom algae and stuff, that's normal with diatom algae. You're going to have that happen. I don't know what kind of rock you started with, but, bring all the experience you have from cichlids and dealing with algae and silicates and phosphates and all those things that feed algae. Those things will eventually burn themselves out. As long as you're using good water, which you are now, just bringing in that stuff and feeding it, now that you're getting past that and feeding your tank clean water, it's going to burn itself out. No overfeed. A lot of people say, hey, add GFO and all this stuff right away. Honestly, you don't have to do any of that. Keep it simple. That rock work's going to completely clear out. Your tank's going to be, spotless. I don't know how long it's going to take. Every tank's different. You probably, prolonged it a little bit longer using tap water if you were using tap water. But eventually it's going to straighten itself out. So in the immediate future, you're good to go. But as far as any other things that I can tell you I recognize just from your video, like you didn't ask me this, but
no, go right on.
It's all good. Your substrate. I don't remember the exact substrate you were using, but it looks like it was more of a larger grain gravel size, similar to that. Am I right?
Yeah, it's definitely not sand, and that may have absolutely been a mistake, but it's not like aquarium gravel either. It's like a crushed coral, but it's definitely not fine like the play sands and stuff like that,
right.
and live sand. I don't know. I mean, I really liked the look of it. I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody told me the right thing to do, so I got what I thought looked good.
That's all good. No problem with it at all. It's not even the sand you're using that I was addressing. My main concern is the depth. Just be conscious of the depth with that kind of gravel and crushed coral, because it's going to eventually collect detritus. And you say you got it for the look of the sand, right? So there's two ways of thought with saltwater. With sand, you're either using it for aesthetic purposes, or you're going to try to use it for trashing purposes, deep sand bed and all that kind of stuff. But if you're using it just gravel like you're using it, what I would recommend is just being conscious of how deep it is and understanding, do you really need it that deep to accomplish what you're wanting, or can you go shallower, cut it in half, and still have the look, but less detritus build up and easier maintenance down the road. I'm just throwing it out there. That's something that you definitely may want to think about. But I don't want to take over here. I don't know if I answered that first question or if I just ran off. But let me know. Let me know what you got.
I mean, you take over as much as you want. I'm sitting here with the dogs, and I'm just listening to you talk. You got one of those DJ type voices. I'm soaking it in, brother. I mean, so please don't apologize for going on and on and on. I mean, you've seen my videos. That's the story of me, is going on and on and on. I never know really when to shut up. So, and that's something that I did not know, what you just told me. So I'm already grateful that we've had this, because I put a nice thick layer on there because that's what I thought I'd seen in a bunch of other tanks. So it's like, I didn't realize that was going to be a mistake. And again, it was a mistake anyway, because I know that, and you can tell me this, isn't there certain things that with the gravel or the crushed coral being as coarse as it is, I'm probably not going to want, I mean, like sand sifters and stuff like that, I'm not going to want to go with, right? Because wouldn't that end up hurting them or
Exactly. Not? Exactly. You're 100% correct. And that's just part of the planning. And like you said, just new to it, which is fine. Trust me. We all been there. I was there too. So I'm not even an expert. Let me throw this out there. Only had saltwater tanks for 2.5 years, but I've experienced enough from that point to at least know enough to get John off the ground, get them going. I can get you that far. Now,
that's exactly what I wanted this to be. I wanted it to be kind of an introduction to this whole world. I mean, I didn't bring you on because everybody told me you're the smartest guy in the world. I'm certainly not. I mean, I don't think really there's anybody that are experts on YouTube. We're all just dudes sharing our experiences. So, you know, I brought you on here because I knew after I went to your videos and saw what you've been doing, I knew it'd been a couple of years for you, but you're not somebody that's been, you know, one of these 25-year saltwater fish keepers. So those people all told me no. So, but I wanted that for this because I want this to be kind of an entry level, you know, which is where I'm at. So the whole premise behind me doing this tank, from when I got it, the whole idea behind even getting it was I want to learn this on YouTube. I mean, I know that's risky because if I kill a fish, everybody's going to know about it, but I wanted to learn the saltwater hobby on YouTube. And so I'm learning right now. I mean, I don't know anything. There's been people already on some of my videos that have criticized me. And I'm like, when did I ever say I know what I'm doing? I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to saltwater. So,
man,
I mean,
you know how it is. I'll say this. I'm going to answer that question and I'll address something else too. But you asked about substrate and fish. Definitely, I don't know what your intention was when you first started. If you were just trying to get the tank going and then go from there, or if you were actually thinking of the fish you wanted when you first started. But with that course, you know, gravel, like you said, that eliminates any sand sifting fish. It's also going to make it very difficult for any fish that lives in the substrate or buries themselves. There's a lot of wrasses. There's some wrasses that are gorgeous fish that actually dig in the substrate at night to sleep. You got to have a good, you know, environment for them. And some of them, you know, don't dig in the substrate, but that's definitely two fish I know right away that you made it difficult to even, you know, get in the long run. So, but don't get me wrong, there's other, you know, beautiful fish you can have in the hobby. So don't worry about that. But if you ever wanted to make the change, you could. Tank's still young anyway. So if you ever wanted to change that substrate out, if you was going to do it, I would recommend you do it now before it's full of corals, fish, you know, livestock and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
With this being as new to me as it is, when we found out we were getting the tank, Lisa's first words out of her mouth were, "We're getting clownfish." I mean, and so you know how that is. When Mama says we're doing something, that means it's going to be done. So I didn't really have a say in the matter. But the cool thing is, I've always loved clownfish too. So, and then no, it's not because of Nemo. It's just I've always loved them. They're orange and white and black, and they're beautiful fish. So, you know, that was part of the plan all along. And then I find out from watching BRS videos that clownfish are a great fish for the new saltwater keeper. So I was like, hey, this is perfect because I am new and these are the fish we wanted anyway. But as I've had this set up and I've watched more videos, including yours, I've started to get that bug like, oh man, kind of want them things waving around in the current, and I want those mushrooms and all that. You know, I started really thinking about those things. So, you know, now I'm kind of wanting to maybe get mine ending up looking kind of like yours back there.
Hey, it's very easy. Well, I can say it's very easy. Takes a lot of thought, definitely. Now, it's easier each system you have. Keep in mind, like I said, this is my setup. So it's easier to project and look ahead to know what you're going to want. So don't worry. You know, you're fine. You may end up only being able to get things that can survive in the environment you created right now. But this is just your first tank. It's not going to be your last saltwater tank, I can tell you now.
I can already tell you, I don't think it's going to be.
No, it's not. And for anyone starting the hobby, anyone out there that, you know, has them Bunas and all that stuff, you know, there are gateway drugs in this hobby. And Bunas always lead to salt. Mark my words. Mark my words, man. I'll tell you that. But yeah, just address something else you spoke about earlier about people in the comments. Realize it seems like the Mbuna community, the African cichlid community in the, you know, YouTube, a little nicer, I would say. It's not as many shame you know what I'm saying? When it comes to saltwater, there's so many different levels of knowledge that I think it makes it a little tougher on the new people that start off that's new in the hobby. Don't be afraid to post your tank on YouTube, man. First of all, if you're document for yourself. That's all I started off doing. That's all I do now, honestly. You guys, I just try to do it in an entertaining way now and edit it. But ultimately, I'm doing it for myself, so I can look back and self-diagnose my problems when they started, or try to figure out my growth and all those things. Do it for yourself first. And if you get a few people to follow you, great. If you get a few people, knocking you in the comments, ignore it. Just don't worry about that. Everyone's going to get to a certain level when they get there, and don't bite off more than you can chew. That's another thing. So just a quick tip I can tell you.
Well, it's a good tip, and I don't know how old you are. I'm not going to ask you because it doesn't matter. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to guess I'm a bit older than you are. And one of the things that I have learned at my age, I'm 42, in case you didn't know. I'm a lot more patient now than I used to be, and I think this is the best time for me to start a saltwater tank, because if I had done this 10 years ago, I would have wanted my tank to look just like yours the day I set it up. I was one of those idiots. I mean, I understand the cycling process. Of course I do. I've been doing this 25 years, but I would have wanted instantaneous, gratification, and I would want that reef and all of that kind of stuff. But with my age, I have learned patience, and it's really good, and it's worked out for me really well so far, because my other tanks, it would drive me crazy only having 2 fish in there. But with this one, I get a kick out of looking in there and seeing just 2 little clownfish, and they're adorable, and it's cute, and it's a beautiful thing to have the patience. I know this is going to sound really weird, CJ, but I'm proud of myself for being patient with this. I mean, if it takes me 2 years to get my tank looking the way yours does right now, I'm fine with that. That's no big deal. So on that note, I'm going to go into the next question, and I got some good news for you. When I run out of questions, my good friend IFG, the Inquisitive Fish Guy, who I'm sure you know, you can't be into African cichlids. There it is. Yep.
Yes.
He is already feeding me questions from the viewers that are watching today. So we've already got, I think, 3 questions that are lined up for when we're done with all of my questions. We're never going to be done with all of my questions in just a one little live stream here. But anyway, let's move on to my next question here for you. And it's perfect timing for it, because we've talked about my 2 clowns. We've talked about my substrate. You know what it is now. And you know that, I'm limited. Maybe I'll switch it up. I don't know. I don't know if I care about sand sifting fish. I don't know if those are important to me. In the beginning, I kind of thought like I might go with a fish only tank, but now I'm starting to get the urge to go ahead and get my rocks to turn purple and all that, which is another question I'm going to ask you. But what would you suggest for me? I've had these, let me do some math here. I've had these for a little over a month, these clowns, and they're perfect. I mean, they're doing extremely well. They eat like crazy, like I'm sure all clowns do. The water is very stable. Everything's fine, again, except for the diatom algae. If I wanted to go to the pet store tomorrow and buy something to put into this tank, I mean, of course, budget is a concern because I'm a normal human being, but what would you say? Maybe another fish? I was thinking something like a shrimp, or maybe shrimp wouldn't be good with my substrate. I don't know. What would you suggest that I go with for my next phase of tank inhabitants?
Great question. Great question. And that is a semi-loaded question with me knowing how many possibilities and directions you could go. So I'm gonna give you a general answer, and then I'm gonna ask you a question about your question to give you a better answer, if it'll work, right? So let me know if you can hear me, because the screen just froze. I don't know if we got audio only, or if you can see me. Give me a confirmation first.
I can see.
Oh, you're froze like this. That's cool though. I can go the rest of the show like that. We can just talk. That's fine. So make sure I let you know. So we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't do anything on mine. Hopefully I'll unfreeze.
I knew you went to stand there like this. I knew you went like. Nah, but listen. As far as answering the question, I would say, with you only having a smaller tank, what size? How many gallons is that again?
It's 24 gallons. 24
gallons. So realistically, displacement, you got what? 15 gallons, 16, 17 gallons of water in there, give or take. I would say that.
Sure.
Something. Let's just say that, right? But I will look, because you're only going to be able to have a maximum of so many fish in there if you're going to have coral. That is going to do more than just look good in your tank. Get something that's going to serve a purpose. So maybe some kind of blenny, I think, will be cool. Blenny, something, tons of personality will be good. It's going to eat algae off your rocks. It's going to help with any algae or any problems you may have in your tank going forward. And the next suggestion will, of course, be wrasses. Wrasses, I love wrasses. You got furry wrasses, 6-line wrasses, all kinds of different wrasses. I got like 3 wrasses in here. But you would have to get the ones specifically that do not bury themselves in substrate. Like a 6-line wrasse, for example, will not bury itself. It will sleep tucked in between your rocks or something to hide itself in your tank, but it wouldn't be underneath the substrate. So wrasse or blenny will be my next 2 suggestions as your next purchase. Not too expensive either. So you're looking anywhere between 20 and 50 bucks maybe.
Okay. And naturally, I mean, I don't mean to insult you by asking this, but as a responsible person here on YouTube, I feel like I have to. These are fish that are going to stay small, right? So they're perfectly fine in a nano tank forever.
Exactly. And no insult needed. We got to try to remember, I guess, everyone that's watching. And that's why I don't know how far you want to go back. I'm assuming we're approaching everyone in this audience that is at least past the beginner level, understanding the nitrate cycle, understanding size limits. Every fish I'm going to suggest to you is going to be at least 4 inches or smaller. The rule in my tank, I never get a fish that's going to outgrow this tank. I'm not one of those guys that falls into the trap that says, hey, I'm getting this fish now because I know I'm going to get a bigger tank later. Realistically, it doesn't happen. It's just like the people, and no offense, the people who may have done this. You're getting married, and some people decide to go to the courthouse thinking they're going to have a wedding later or a reception later. How many people really do that, right? So just throwing it out there. Be realistic. Every fish I'm giving you is going to fit in your tank, I promise you.
Another great analogy to go right on with that is something my mother taught me when I was like, I don't know, I was like 22, I think. And she said what every mother says to their kid, when are you going to start having kids? And I said, well, we got money problems and, we're going to wait till we have our money situation straight before we have kids. And she said, oh, great. You're never going to have kids then. Wonderful. So it's the same thing. I mean, if you wait until you have the right money, you're never going to have children. But I could not agree with you more. And even though what you just said doesn't only pertain to saltwater, but also to freshwater, especially freshwater, it's one of the biggest mistakes that anybody makes. And I'm so glad that you said that, because having owned a fish store for 2 years, I saw it happen all the time. And I hated to do it. People would, well, I've got a 20-gallon now and I want to get these 8 peacocks. I'm going to get a bigger tank in a month. And they end up a month later bringing the fish back. They're dying. They can't stay in my tank. People never end up getting that bigger tank. So I'm really glad. I don't want to take over this, but I'm really glad that you said that, because it's a mistake that's made hobby wide, saltwater, freshwater. I don't care what you're keeping. That's a very, very common mistake. So, all right. So I wrote down Blenny, Blenny. Is that what you said?
You got it.
Okay.
Now, I can tell you which one. There's tons of different ones. Some of them actually get bigger. So, when you get to the pet store, do your homework, man. Bicolor Blenny or some kind of Midas Blenny would probably be my first 2 that I would suggest for you.
Okay. And then you said look into wrasses too, right?
Yep.
But not
wrasses.
The ones that will sleep under the sand. Okay, good. Now, what about corals? Because I didn't think I was going to want to do this in the beginning, but now I'm kind of like, man, I think I could get into that kind of thing. Am I ready for corals? Do I need to wait for the diatoms to leave? Does something need to happen in the tank before I can start thinking about corals? And then, so it's kind of 2 questions. There's that. Mm-hmm. And then also, if I am ready for corals, what should I start with? What is a good entry level coral to go with?
Great question. Great question. Now, I'm going to try to tie this into your personal situation, because this is like that question you asked me is like aiming for a moving target, because everyone's tank and situation is different. You telling me that you just started an RO unit, right? You just started using fresh, clean water.
Well, let me clarify that real quick.
Right?
Let me clarify that. I've never put anything but RO water in this tank.
Okay.
That's all I've ever used. This tank sat empty for 4 months, and I'm going to ask you a question about this RO thing in a little bit. In fact, it's my next question. But this tank sat empty for 4 months because I didn't have a access to RO water. But since I started it, it's never been anything but RO water.
Okay, well, dang on. Why was I thinking? See, the way you were talking, like people were attacking you without using one, made me feel like you were using tap water. Never mind. Let's just scratch
I'll
that
go
then.
into more detail
Let's
in
scratch
that
that. Okay.
as we move
Well,
forward. Trust me.
cool. Okay. Well, anyways, let's get past. Okay, so back to what you asked me. Are you ready yet? As long as your tank is cycled to the point to where you're not getting any more swings. I know you know all about the nitrogen cycle and all that stuff. So as long as your tank is steady and your nitrates are not skyrocketing through the roof or anything, then I would say, yeah, your tank was 2, 3, 4 months old. Is that about right? How old is it exactly?
I'm going to go ahead and say about 3. I think it ran for about a month and a half with nothing in it, which nothing probably happened, I'm sure. But and then I've had the fish in there for about a month and a half.
Right. Okay, so I think you're all right. I mean, I added corals to my tank roughly 2.5, 3 months in. Now, I'll tell you, you'll find out really quickly if your tank's ready or not, because the coral, you're gonna just kill it, right? So basically, yeah, I think your tank cycle, your diatom bloom's there. It should start clearing up. Yeah, you should be ready. Now, if you're gonna start off, what I do suggest, especially because you're probably new to coral and new to salt and all that stuff, I would start off with something small, some kind of small frag of something easy to keep. There's soft corals that are easy to keep. There's mushrooms. Don't get an expensive mushroom because some mushrooms cost like $2, $3, $4, $5,000, right?
Oh well, that's not going to be in my tank.
Exactly. Nobody got one time for that. Used cars in the tank, right? But but something cheap like a Kenya tree or some kind of soft coral going to cost you too much money, but it's going to let you know where your tank is. Now, keep in mind, it kind of goes hand in hand. Usually the cheaper, easier to maintain corals are also the same kind of corals that can potentially be so easy that they grow so fast and take over your tank. So be mindful of that. But what I would suggest, if you're going to go to the pet store tomorrow, go grab you a cheap little frag of either zoanthids, those little colorful little polyp button little things that if you look at them, or some kind of soft coral, mushroom, something. Get one piece of it. Buy some coral dip. Definitely get you some coral dip. I'm gonna tell you this now. Don't risk it, dip it. Is what a fellow YouTuber made a video years ago. Cyber Aquarius. He made a video on that. I remember that slogan. But don't risk it, dip it. But you get you some coral dip, and starting with that first piece of coral, make sure you dip it. Follow the instructions for however long it takes. Or Coral RX, Revive. There's many different kinds of dip out there. People have. Add it to the tank. Don't put it on your rock work is what I would suggest. Put it somewhere to where if you knew later in the road, a week or two later, you're not going to want it, you can just pluck that coral out and not have to worry about it. Some corals will attach to your rock work. You can't get them off. Add it to your tank. See how it does. That's the first thing I would do. So that should get you started. But once you buy one, I mean, it's like tattoos. You're not gonna stop. So I'm telling you that now. Be careful.
Well, you know what? I only have one tattoo. It's this one. Everybody asks me what it is. I only have one, and the reason why is because I never have money to get more tattoos. So I don't know if that rule applies to me. I would have a whole lot of them if I had the money to do it. But, I can only spend the amount of money Lisa gives me to spend. So, I mean, this is going to be something that's going to be, it's going to be a slow process, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I've been to pet stores and looked at corals and gone, oh my God, I don't think I'm ever going to get into corals because they're so expensive. So can you make suggestions on cheaper ones that are going to be good for me to start with? Or did you already?
Everyone I said is going to be cheaper corals. All the ones I said. Now, if you was to look, I don't know how much you can see on my tank. I wonder if I move this if the camera's going to mess up. But I'll actually show you. Maybe a couple cheaper ones. Right here would be what you would call pallies or zoanthids on this rock.
You need to move your camera over a little bit. I can see a little bit of it, but there you go.
Okay. All right. Actually, let me do this. Let me switch this camera around 1 second. Let me know if the feed drops. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Okay. All right. So
I can hear you, but I no longer can see anything.
I was flipping the camera around.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
See my dirty house. I'm flipping the camera from the front face, and we're going to go through the tank. I'm going to show you exactly some cheap corals,
nice.
Right?
This is what we need. Okay.
These are pallies. Now you're gonna find a million names. They're gonna be confusing. You know, there's gonna be ancient mama pallies, you know, pancake pallies, whatever, Fruit Loops, whatever you want to call them. I think he's a purple people eaters or something. That's literally the name of them. But you can get a little small piece of this that is only maybe one or two of these heads for $5 or $10. That's a cheap coral, but it's gonna turn into this. Look how many heads are on there now. It's probably 50 or something. So, I mean, that's a cheap coral. These mushrooms here would be something that you would define as a cheap coral. These, honestly, anything like that, even these leather corals, these bigger ones, these are fairly cheap. Corals that I would say are cheap. And then there are the more expensive ones like these big torches that are swinging around. Those are the more expensive corals, but you can get all of these things smaller. Keep in mind, the smaller the piece. So everything you look at is going to grow eventually. And if you said you're starting on a budget, keep that in mind. You know, if you're patient, you say you're not going to have to really worry about how much money you're not going to spend money all at once. If you're patient, just start off with little frags, man. You can get little frags of everything and grow it out. So I would say those three are something I would start off with if I was you.
Okay, now when we talk about these corals' growth, you showed the mushroom one. You called it. The only thing I heard was Fruit Loops. You came through loud and clear, but when you said Fruit Loops, my mind just went a little crazy there. You don't get to look like me by not eating a lot of Fruit Loops, so you caught my interest there. But you said you can buy it, just a couple of those little pods. But how long have you had those to where now they are the size of what they are? You know, when we're talking about growth, are we talking about like the same kind of a rate as what fish normally do? Or because like, do these things grow like peacocks do, or are they growing like frontosas do? And it seems like they never grow.
Oh, definitely not frontosa. Some corals, you would say frontosa's, speed of growth. But those bad boys, depending on your water quality, you can sprout more heads every week. You know, this is a year's worth of growth, but in some people's tanks that, a little more mature or a little better, water quality wise, you can get that kind of growth in maybe a few months. Like this little pier, the green, the swing, these are green star polyps. Those are also a really, really cheap, easy to keep coral, but it's almost to a fault. Now, I started off with a dime-sized piece of that on that rock. Dime size. It's covering the whole thing now, to the point to where now it's starting to grow downwards to the point to where it's going to start potentially endangering other parts of my tank, because corals do fight each other and sting each other and kill each other. And that stuff will just grow over everything. So, when I say most easy corals are easy to a fault, that's what I mean. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's why what you're going to get, don't grab everything, and always buy from a place that accepts trade-ins. Because, if you may change your mind, you want to get somewhere that you can't take it back and maybe swap it out for something new, right?
There is a store in Richmond, Virginia, that I'm hoping to work with on this, not to get handouts or nothing like that. But what I'm hoping to do is when I go to purchase my first coral, I'm hoping to actually get it on video and get this guy, explaining to me why that should be my first coral. And I'm going to bring those up because I like those Fruit Loops. Those are really cool. And that's what I'm going to go into that store and I'm going to be like, this dude told me I need to get Fruit Loops. So I want Fruit Loops, not Fruity Pebbles.
I don't even know if there really is a Fruit Loop one, man. There's a gazillion names. I mean, I think some people just make up random stuff, bug on the wall corals. I don't know, man.
You said something else, not your mama's something too.
Yeah, something crazy. Literally, I mean, there's a million names. You're gonna find more names to the point to where I don't even try to remember them anymore. I just say that coral right there, that one. So that's it.
It's kind of like fish. I mean, I've got so many fish in that tank right now. It's like I can tell you what they all are, but it would take me a while. I mean, and I've been doing this probably longer than you've been alive. So, I mean, how old are you? Will you tell me how old you are so I can stop saying that?
Oh, man, I'll tell you.
Come on, you're not a woman. I mean, it's not offensive to ask somebody how old you are.
Well, you know what? I wanted to say it, but I actually had a contest I was going to run with my age, and I don't want to spoil it.
All right, that's fine. I got you.
I'll give it at the end. I'll give it at the end for all the subscribers that come in. to the end, I'll tell you how old I am, man. And
It's
then
no big deal. I'll stop making age jokes if I'm
no, that's fine.
wondering
But you're
about
older
that.
than me. I'll give you that. You are older than me.
Well,
So
shoot, I
I
would
should
have
be
never
calling
guessed
you.
that.
I should be calling you Mr. John.
Don't you dare! I will. I've got a button right here. I can just kick you right out and do the rest of the show by myself. I'll do it.
Yes,
Don't you think I won't?
yes. You got it.
All right. Well, I gotta ask this because I'd be in trouble from the boss if I didn't. I'm looking at your tank and I'm seeing what I would call anemones, and of course, with clowns, it's been a question that I've been asked by every kid that I have in this house, and I've got a bunch of them, and everybody else that looks at, oh, are you going to get anemones for Nemo? So are anemones kind of that's not going to be an entry level type thing, or would they be?
Yeah, honestly, if your tank is mature, easy corals. They take care of themselves now. They have minds of their own. I will tell you that they actually move. You know, these corals are not like plants. They're not like, you know, things in the freshwater world that just you put them there and they stay put. A lot of them have feet that they actually move around with. Not just anemones either. A lot of people think that just anemones can actually crawl around the rockwork. Some of these pallies and zoanthids and different things actually detach themselves, float around your tank, and attach to something else and move around your tank. So a lot of corals can do that. But with anemones, definitely you want to make sure your water quality is right, your tank is mature. I didn't add any anemones to my tank for at least 6 months, 6 or 7 months before I even attempted it. A lot of people may do it sooner, may end up with some dead anemones. You know, you have a swing. They don't like swings in your parameters. They don't do really well with that. They either may die or they may split and multiply that way. They actually multiply by splitting like cells back in your, you know, old science class days. But
There he goes with another old joke. Jeez.
But that's it. Hey man, we all have science class, man. I don't know like these kids these days, but you know, hey, I'll tell you this. I didn't have computers in the classroom. All right. I'm old enough to where I didn't have computers in my classroom. I'll say that. All right. So but I would say, yeah, you can keep them, man. I know everyone wants to dream of anemones and clownfish. For one, make sure your tank's mature. For two, make sure you know what type of anemone you're getting because there are many, many different types. Some live in the substrate, like on the bottom of your tank. Some actually live on the rockwork. Some move more than others. These guys, I started with one. It split. Now I have two. I have two in there now. I did a water change, and you know, I had two of them the next day I came home. So definitely make sure, you know, good water. Do some research on what anemone you're going to get, and they get huge. Just another thing, you got a small tank. The things never stop growing if you feed them. I mean, that anemone, if, a couple of years from now, could be this big in my tank, so to the point where I have to take it out. So, but what I will say, once you get past those things and you can keep an anemone, you can't force clownfish to host it. So if you're getting it dreaming that it's going to happen, it doesn't happen for everyone, especially right away. You can do, you know, some people basically force the clownfish in or trap them in a box with the anemone or put a picture of the anemone and the clownfish hosting to see if it teaches it or anything like that. I mean, there's tons of tricks people try to say. I remember I seen some people say use a laser dot in the middle of the night, a laser, point out the anemone so the clownfish follows the light into it. Put food in it, see if it'll follow it. I mean, there's a million different ways people try to say. Me personally, I'm all about natural, everything. I don't manipulate anything in my tank. I didn't manipulate bacteria in my tank. I didn't add any bacteria from the bottle. I didn't add any live rock or anything. I just let things happen naturally, and I'm waiting for the clownfish to host naturally. I will tell you this, in my last tank, I waited and waited and waited. I had clownfish that were tank raised. That's something else that you may want to pay attention to. Tank raised clownfish versus wild caught or wild clownfish. You know, people say the wild ones are the only ones that'll host, tank raised won't. That's a myth. Tank raised will host, but in my situation, the only reason I noticed them host, when I say host, I'm talking about living in the anemone. The only time I noticed it was when I added a different type of fish, a damselfish. You know, clownfish are damselfish as well from that family, but a different type. One that just swims around, not a clownfish. It actually went into the anemone, and the clownfish got jealous to the point to where I don't know if it was jealousy or they just watched and learned. But from that point forward, those clownfish lived in that anemone and hosted it after months and months and months of nothing. So that's just a quick quick story. But in a nutshell, don't get your anemone yet, man. Wait until everything's rock steady. You got your rock steady maintenance schedule down. Rock steady as far as your parameters, your alkalinity, your magnesium, your calcium, your nitrates, ammonia, all those things. Make sure those things are steady before you even think about it. This would be my suggestion.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, that's exactly why you're here, because I knew you would give good points like that. So I'm going to throw 2 curveballs at you.
Go for it.
These are not on our script, folks. So we're going to see how good this guy is on the fly. One of them you kind of touched on a second ago, but I want you to expand on a little bit. And then the other one we haven't talked about at all. The first one, you talked about the corals growing to a point where they might take over, which to me, kind of sounds like plants. And when that happens with a plant, you just go in there and you uproot some of them and you move them. What would you do? I mean, I've heard some of these are like poisonous and stuff like that. What would you do in that situation where you have a coral that's going out of control and is jeopardizing other ones potentially? You just go in there with your fingers and move them, or how do you go about doing that?
You're right. Definitely poisonous. First and foremost, let me mention this. Let me reach back here. Gloves. Keep a box of these. A lot of people don't use these, which honestly, I don't know why, because some of these corals can literally kill you. Like kill you and your whole family. Now, you stuck your bare hand in there in one of these pallies. If you had a poisonous one in there, it excreted its mucus, it gets stressed, it lets it out. It's on your hand. You wash your hand off, you think it's off, but if you smell your hand, you can still smell the poison. It actually has a smell, a distinct smell to it. I would compare it to pine saw or something. I don't know how to really describe the smell, but it's there. You wash your hands, go cook something, feed your family, and everyone is in bad shape. So first and foremost, protect myself with gloves. Now, as far as corals encroaching things, some corals literally are rock work to the point to where you can't get it off. Like it becomes one with the rock work. Like that GSP or the green star pops, that green stuff, it's literally like grass growing on top of rock. So imagine a rock mounting growing on it that you can't get to the roots on. Ain't nothing you can do about those situations. So it just grows, and the best thing you can do is just remove that whole rock and try to chip away or something. Now, some corals, like those zoanthids and pallies, I mean, if you really wanted to get it off with an X-Acto knife or something and actually frag and cut those things off, and some corals you can just break off and pull off the rock. So it just depends on the coral. Me personally, I don't have any intentions on having to do that as far as, with knives and getting up and close and personal, because me, I'm a little, I don't know if you call it paranoia or I just being smart. I don't want to risk anything splashing on me or anything like that. I'm not looking for this tank to make me any money. So some people do fragging and purposely cut corals off rock to make money to sell them. I'm not doing that in this tank. So in a nutshell, I would say it's like plants, like you said. You reach in there with plants, you can grab them out without worrying about dying. That's a huge difference. You can do it for some of these corals for the most part. You just got to plan it out right. You got to, do some research, understand how that specific coral grows, whether it encrusts, grows over the rock work to the point to where you can't get it off, whether it maybe grows a little bit and branches out from the rock, or whether it's one of those things that moves around, like anemones. So they don't attach to one place. They move around your tank till they're happy. You can't control it or do anything about it. So I would say just do your homework on growth patterns and, plan for the best and, hope for the best, plan for the worst is what I would say.
It's very similar to a lot of things in this hobby. All of the work is done before you ever even spend any money. If you want to do this the smart way, that's the way you're going to do it. All right, now I was going to say I'm going to embarrass myself, but I'm not going to embarrass myself because I've never put it out there as if I know anything about saltwater. This is all new to me. I'm going to ask probably the most amateurish question. Well, no, I guess that would be, do you have to put salt in the tank? That would probably be the most.
Yeah, I don't think you're at that level, man. Like table salt.
But this one, I'm telling you though, this one is, I really do wonder this, and I genuinely do not know the answer to this, and hopefully you can tell me, because you don't have this. And so I'm like, I don't even know if it's a good thing. All right, what am I talking about? I mentioned something early in this conversation about rocks turning purple. Me, I like that. I think that looks really cool. I think it makes it look like a natural reef. I look in your tank and it's gorgeous. It's breathtaking, but your rocks aren't purple. What gives with this purple algae? Is it just algae? Where does it come from? How do I want it in my tank?
The good old purple stuff, right?
That's
what
right,
they call it.
Stuff.
Coraline algae is what you're talking about. Now, I actually have it in here, and when we get done talking, I'll show you. But it's not all over my tank. Coraline algae is an actual algae that absorbs the nutrients from your water, not like phosphates or anything, but it absorbs the same nutrients that your corals absorb, the calcium, alkalinity, and it literally grows over your rockwork and anything in your tank. Now, my tank doesn't have it in there probably as much as everyone else because, one, I started off with base rock that didn't have any Coraline on it to begin with. And you have to introduce it to your tank before it starts growing, whether you introduce it on a snail or hermit, maybe a hermit you bought from the store, had that purple stuff on its shell, it'll introduce it to your tank. Or, if you got a piece of rock work that had it on there, you introduce it. I didn't introduce it to my tank until maybe 3 or 4 months down the road, and my water quality wasn't as good at the time to grow it. So now I'm starting to get it take off. It's growing on some of my pumps, on my back wall, some of my rock work, but it's not there yet. Maybe another year, it'll probably be completely covered. But for you to get it in your tank, and I'm going to say this too, a lot of people that have it wish they didn't have it. I will say that. So when I say wish they didn't have it, for 2 reasons. One, okay, it looks good, but at the same time, it covers everything. Your glass, you have to, it messes up your maintenance. You have to scrape it off. It's really hard to get off. And 2, it actually affects your parameters. And when I say parameters, some people, they'll understand this. As I said before, it consumes the same things that your corals consume from your water column. So, if you're having issues with calcium in your tank and you got a tank full of Coraline algae that is basically competing for the same calcium as your corals, what would you really rather have, corals, Coraline? So that's just something to think about. But for you, if you want the purple stuff, if you want that good old purple stuff, you got to seed it in your tank somehow. So get, some hermits or something. If you go to the fish store and you're buying hermit crabs and snails and cleanup crew, look for anything that has that stuff on its shell. That's the best way I would say introduce it. Or if you really, really want to, you can get a little piece of rock, live rock or something, and introduce to your tank that way. But be careful. When I say a piece, get something that almost looks like a solid piece of purple and Coraline. Don't get something that looks like it's so porous and big and holy to where it could be potentially housing bad stuff. Because saltwater world, man, there's so many critters and bugs and things you don't want in your tank. I would say just be careful with that. And if you want the purple stuff, introduce it to your tank. Keep good water quality. It'll happen on its own.
Okay, so it is very much just like green algae. If you put too much fertilizer in the planted tank, this is my first planted tank too, in case you didn't know. Put too much fertilizer in there, you're fueling the growth of that algae. So kind of the same thing. I see it in all of these tanks, and I'm like, man, that looks really good. I've snorkeled over top of reefs and stuff, and I've seen it, and it's like, that's beautiful. It looks so natural when people have that. So yeah, I know that was probably a pretty dumb question, but you answered it well, my friend.
No.
That was very good.
No, it wasn't a dumb question at all. Look, I love, man. Hey, if anyone subscribe to me, you know this. But if you don't subscribe to me, I love this hobby, man. I love talking about it. I love just being real in the hobby. That's it. So, hey, far away. I don't care what we talk about. I'm with it.
It took me 20 seconds of talking to you to realize that. So I know, and you know what? You're not bullshitting either. I mean, it's very clear to me that you like this hobby a lot. You're not just doing this, to try to become famous on YouTube or something. You're doing this because you love doing it and you love sharing your experiences. And that's why I have you on here. I got one more question. And then after this question, we're going to get into the flood of questions that IFG is sending over to me. He's got some good ones in here. And one of them,
how many people are in the feed? I can't see the live stream feed or comments or anything.
You're going to be disappointed. It's 133.
Oh man,
we haven't
didn't
broke
break
the record.
Oh man,
But you know what?
Somebody make a call. Somebody make some calls.
I know it. I don't know what's going on with, but you know, they're probably like, you know what? After they saw last week with me and Sean, they were probably like, that guy is so out of sorts, and he's so, you know, he needs to get his act together, and then maybe I'll come back and watch later. So unfortunately, you might be falling victim to my technical difficulties last week, which it was actually Pectec's technical difficulties, not mine. But anyway, all right, this is a big question, and it has to do with my own personal little controversy. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was pissed off yesterday because I started up my series of videos back in, I don't know, it was like February. I did my first video of unboxing this M60, putting it all together, and then the series of videos just died because I didn't have the RO water. Now, the reason why that happened is because I just decided I was going to do this completely on my own with the help of my YouTube audience. I said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here, so you all throw me information in the comment section of the videos, and I'll just kind of, you can teach me, and it'll be fun. We'll do all this together. And people did. They responded in a big way. I got so many suggestions and pieces of advice, and it was fantastic. The overwhelming bit of advice that I got from, I mean, probably 90 out of 100 comments were, John, don't use tap water, use RO water. You have to use RO water if you're going to keep a saltwater tank, especially if you're going to keep corals and all of that kind of stuff. And that's why I put it on hold, because I didn't have RO water. I know we've already talked about this, but then, you know, a few months later, I get my hands on the RO system and I hook it up and I get it running and run it through a few cycles through it before I actually put the water in the tank. Got my tank set up, got it running, had it running a month and a half, put the fish in there. Yay, John's happy. Everything's great. I did a video, actually recorded it a few weeks ago, but I uploaded it yesterday. And in there, I said, I sounded like a real expert too. I said, if you're going to keep a saltwater tank, the fish need RO water because that's what, you know, that's what's required for reef tanks. I can't tell you how many people put in the comment section, John, you don't need RO water or soft water. I made the mistake. I said soft water as opposed to RO water. You don't need soft water. You don't need this. And it was almost like everybody was giving me the exact opposite advice. And they were, a couple of them were being kind of assholes about it, if I'm being honest with you. But they were like,
I've seen those comments.
Exact opposite of what I said, what they were telling me last time. So for God's sakes, clear this up for me. I mean, did I have my tank sit there empty for 3 months for no reason? Could I have just thrown tap water in there and been fine? Help me out with this RO thing.
No doubt. No doubt. You are right, man. You did the right move, getting your RO system set up and using RO water. And even better, when you told me that you never used tap water in your tank, you probably were driving to get your RO water based on that video you were telling me 2 hours away to that store.
I didn't want to go to that store. That was the problem.
right. But yeah, use RODI water. Now, tap water, I would say, let's address this first. Advice that you're getting on this. I would ask myself 3 things, because I do this the same way on my channel. Because I'll post a video. Keep in mind, I'm posting videos to document. Some people may think I'm doing it to teach. I'm really not. I'm really just documenting and just sharing why I'm doing it. And sometimes, you know, I'll get some advice that I'll be like, you know, that seems like a good idea. But before I consider anything, first thing I do is ask myself, does this person have a tank to prove anything they're doing? Do they have a YouTube to even show it, a picture or anything to show what they're telling you is something they practice? 2, can I find anywhere on YouTube, forums, anywhere that correlates what they're telling me to where someone's used it successfully and has it documented? And the third thing is, does it just make sense for me in my pocket and my tank and what I want to do? So those 3 things I do when I approach everything, and I take all advice and I consider it, and I make my final decision after I do those things. But when it comes to, you know, tap water versus RO, definitely the only way I can see you ever getting away with just tap water is if you were doing some kind of fish-only saltwater system, to the point to where you didn't really even have to care about the parameters for corals, the calcium, the alkalinity, the magnesium, and making sure you don't have, you know, aluminum in your water or any of those things that actually will kill corals. If you just have fish only, then you basically would just be treating it like an African cichlid tank at that point and just maintaining your salinity. That would be the only way I would ever even say you could probably do that and be okay. For any other situation with a reef tank, never use tap water. There's too many unknowns. There's too many variables that you're playing with that you don't know. Unless you're getting the report from your water company that you live in, you know, your city you live in, you know, they send out those reports every year or 2 years, whatever the case may be, to tell you exactly what's in the water, zinc, copper, aluminum, whatever it is, chloramines, all those things that are in there. There are different variables that you can't control that could potentially kill your tank, kill your corals, feed algae, feed all the bad stuff you don't want in your system. Why not start off with everything zeroed out where you can control it to where you can introduce the things you want? So if anyone else has a better way to deny or defy that logic, tell me. And then not only tell me, show me your tank to where you practice it and prove it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, and you know what? A lot of it, I'm sure, CJ, was my fault because I did mistakenly say soft water as opposed to RO water. I meant to say RO water. So I kind of made myself look like a jerk there, the way I put that out there. But these guys, you know, it was so frustrating for me because it's like, this is the opposite of what everybody told me. And it's so, you know, it made me get pretty frustrated. I didn't, if you're watching tonight, the guys that said that yesterday, I didn't mean to call you names. That was horrible of me to do that. But that's how frustrated I was, because it's like, look, everybody told me. I was so grateful to get this advice from so many people that, hey, John, you have to do RO water. And like I said, I'm very patient in my old age because, you know, I'm a senior citizen. So I was like, well, I'll just let it sit until I can get RO water. No big deal. You know, thank you so much for the advice. And then I put it in and I say something about it and everybody's like, no, my God, you don't need it. I was like, oh God, you got to be kidding me. So, but thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. You've said on more than one statement today that with the RO water, I'm doing the right thing. So I feel good about it. And man, I've learned a lot already today. So we've been going for an hour. And I'm done with my questions. You know, I don't have any more, so I'm sure I might come up with some more. But let's. You open to taking some questions from the audience today?
I sure am, man. I'll tell you what. Even though you guys may love my gorgeous Louisville shirt, I'm gonna get out from in front of the camera for this question segment. Let you guys look at my tank. So as you're getting questions prepared, I'm turning off the camera for a second, get everything situated, and I can still hear you. But
that sounds good.
We can go ahead and fire away. All right, so
I would be willing to bet that a lot of people wish I would do that more because I do Facebook live streams all the time. And I don't know if you've live streamed on Facebook yet, but when you do that and people like the feed while you're doing it, all of the likes and stuff start like flowing across the screen and you get all these little blue thumbs up and stuff. And that always seems to happen when I show my tanks instead of my ugly face. So I think that I should probably do what you're starting to do here during my live streams. So, all right, there's a few questions. I'm going to skip to one in particular, though, and there's a very good reason why I'm doing that. It's because the guy's name on YouTube is Redskins Fan Forever. Of course I'm going to go to that guy first because why wouldn't I? I live in the D.C. metropolitan area. This is great because I think IFG is looking out for me because he's sending very bare bone basic like entry level questions, and I love that. The question is very simple, and I'm sure you can answer it in 5 seconds, but please take longer. What size tank is the best to start a saltwater tank for the newbie?
Oh man, I tell you what, that's the number one question I think for anyone new. I'm gonna say this. First of all, the short answer is this. I would say anywhere between 40 and 60 gallons. That's me just giving you a yes and no answer. But if I was to expand on it, let me know if you can hear me because I'm moving the camera around. Can you hear me and see the tank?
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Loud. You don't see it? Okay, good. All right. If I was to expand on it, a lot of people may disagree with me. Go as big as you can go, you know, go big, go home, do what you got to do to, there's spare no expense in the hobby, whatever the case may be. I don't agree with that thought. I would say 40 to 60 gallons would be the perfect size tank. Also keeping your lighting in mind. It's not like the cichlid days to where in Buna, it's good to get a long tank to give them length to swim and, territories and all that stuff. You got to think about money with lighting if you're going to have a reef tank and corals. Most lights you buy are going to cover a 2x2 square as far as the lighting that they can provide per light. Get a tank like that. This tank I have right now is 26 inches width-wise, I believe. So it's a little more than 2 feet. I got one light that can cover that whole spread of my tank. So this is a 45-gallon tank. Let's say I got a 40 long. I would have to buy 2 of these lights to light the same water volume and essentially double my expense in the same process in an already expensive hobby. So I would say definitely you can afford, but if you're new to the hobby, don't go too big because there is a such thing as biting off more than you can chew. And biting off more than you can chew is when you get a huge tank and you get an alkalinity swing and don't know what to do with it. And your tank's too big to do a water change to correct it, but you got to dose. And you got to learn how to do that and learn how to save this used car you have in your house because that's the size of the investment you're going to have at that point. So just be smart, be smart.
So is the logic true, though, that the larger the tank, they're easier to take care of? Like freshwater tanks are that way. Is it the same with saltwater, or is it smaller tanks are easier to take care of?
I would say, depending on the person, if you are someone new to the hobby, let's say entry level, like you, John, you're just starting off, you just kind of getting your feet wet. You understand the basics, nitrogen-wise, because you came from freshwater, planet, whatever. You got that down. But when it comes to maintaining water, that's where you get in trouble. So when they say it's easier to maintain a bigger tank, it is. You get smaller swings and all that stuff. That's true. And the swings happen slower. Temperature changes happen slower. They happen slower. But when it comes to maintaining that tank and the amount of research and knowledge you're going to need to maintain a larger tank, that's where the difference is. So you got to think about who we're talking about here. We're talking about a beginner, or we're talking about someone that understands a little bit about the saltwater hobby. So that's why I would say, if you are a beginner, make it easier by getting a mid-sized tank. Like this is mid-sized to the point to where if I really got in trouble water quality wise, I can do a huge water change on this, and I only have 30 gallons of water in my tank. That's something that I can manage if I really get in trouble. And that's pretty much the only way I maintain this tank is with water changes. I don't have to dose or anything. So I'm just going to say this. Go bigger. It is easier water quality wise, yes. Could I go bigger and maintain the tank? I would say yes, but it incorporates a whole nother level of learning in the hobby, dosing, calculating how much your tank is using as far as those parameters, the equipment you're going to need, staying on top of it, testing. It just takes it to a new level. So yes, bigger tanks are easier to maintain, but for someone new in the hobby, no, I would say they're not easier to maintain because of the amount of research you're going to have to add on top of having to research anyways.
Well, and I think with my limited experience with saltwater, but looking into it a lot, I think I might even be able to add to that a little bit. You can set up a freshwater aquarium for like $50, a good size one too. I mean, but with saltwater though, what I've already realized, it is way more expensive than freshwater hobby. So I think the biggest thing for somebody that was in the position that I was in, and I'm still in, you're a freshwater fish keeper, you've been doing this for a long time, couple of decades, and you want to move into the saltwater hobby, don't think that it's going to be the same money that you spent to get your freshwater tank set up, because it is not. There's a whole lot more things. There's more equipment. There's more stuff, and the fish cost more. Everything's more. So yeah, that's good advice there. Now let me skip back one. I had to skip to Redskins fan forever. I had to go to that guy first.
Oh, man, come on, kill it, man. I'm a Packers fan, by the way. Let me throw it out there for all the Packers fans in the comments. Give me a cheese nation or something.
Hey,
cheese heads.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm looking at Brett Favre on my TV right now. It's so weird that you say that. I am also. I'm not. All right. Let me clarify this. We're going to talk football here for a second. My stepson, who's 21. When he was 4 years old, he decided he was going to be a fan of Brett Favre. I don't know why. He just decided out of nowhere. I think he wanted to rebel against his mother being a Redskins fan. And so he's been a Packer fan forever. And so, of course, my other stepson, his brother, he has made him into a Packer fan too. So I've got a couple Packer fans in this house. Packers are all right for me. You want to talk about Cowboys, then we might have a problem. But if you're a Packers fan, we can still get along. We won't have any problems. So Andrew Gomez asks, again, and I want to thank IFG for sending these questions over to me. This is a big deal. It takes a lot of load off of me. Andrew Gomez asks, what does, and I like this question because I don't know either, what does calibration fluid do?
Calibration fluid. Okay. The calibration fluid I was talking about was, for when you're checking your saltwater, your salinity, right? Most reef tanks, you want to have your salinity close to natural seawater, which is 1.026. So I run mine at 2.5 in my tank. The calibration fluid is automatically tested to be at the natural seawater, 0.26. The whole point is when you get your refractor meter out of the box, sometimes it's off a little bit. It's not zeroed out. And a lot of people say you can just use RO water, which should have a 0 as far as on your refractor meter. Some people use that to zero out your refractor meter. I say you use the calibration fluid because that's the goal you're aiming for. If you're testing, let's say you want to, check your tire pressure, right? And you got a tire pressure gauge. And you can calibrate it to either being 0, meaning no pressure, or you can have a tire that 100% fact that has been checked by everyone that is the exact pressure you want, and you can calibrate it to that and then check your tire. Which one do you think would be more accurate? Some people may say if it's 0, it'll be fine, but I would say calibrate your instruments to match the exact water salinity that you want to get. So that's why I say calibration fluid is definitely a must. I've noticed that even calibrating with RO water sometimes has you off by a little bit. And I know a lot of people in the hobby may say, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, I've talked to a lot of people in the hobby that it's noticed. It does have you off by a smidgen. It might not be much, but in the saltwater world, being off by a little bit has huge problems in your tank.
Okay.
If I didn't make that answer more confusing than it needed to be. But
no, I mean, so it's basically a fluid to calibrate your refractometer, whatever that thing is called.
Refractometer. Okay. There you go.
Refractometer. I don't know why I can't talk tonight. So, yeah, that's good. I had never heard of that before this conversation either. So that was why I really did want to jump onto that question. So, okay, Ghost Knife Black asks how big your tank is. You just said how much it is. Paul Martin, this guy, you got to take care of this guy, CJ, because he's a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. What makes the best tank? Tall like a show tank or wide like a breeder tank? That is an interesting question. Talk about a curveball.
Let me ask you this. He's forgetting about width. Is he tall and skinny or tall and wide? Because if all things are equal width-wise, would you rather have a tall tank or a wide tank? I would rather have a wider tank. Now, this is for me, for one reason, maintenance-wise. I'm not a tall guy. I'm only 5'10". I don't like the idea of my armpits having to be in the tank to reach the bottom of the tank. It's more than maybe 20 to 24 inches tall. Now, lighting-wise, a tall tank makes it a lot more difficult for light to penetrate to the bottom of your reef tank. And light is very important. That's the life source of your tank. So if you get coils on the bottom, you can't light, it limits you. So I would say I would stay away from a tall tank. I would go for more width and length than anything.
Is there too wide? I mean, I guess that's kind of a stupid question.
Nah, man. That's what that's what someone in the comments going to say. That's what she said, or something, or whatever. That's where you fall in, right? But
yeah.
But as far as width, no, I would say no. Just keeping in mind of the lighting. Remember, I said earlier the coverage of each lights, is usually 2x2. So just kind of keep in mind you want to maximize the light spread using the least amount of equipment. personally, I like wide tanks. I love aquascaping. You know, the wider the tank, the more room you have to create depth and to use the different, you know, processes that are out there when it comes to aquascaping, whether it be the rule of thirds or the golden rule, all those kind of things. You know, the deeper the tank, the easier it is to accomplish those things. Just like my tank is, you know, I got about 16 inches of depth, that's usable depth inside my tank, not counting my refugium in the back, that I can actually aquascape. So that's just something food for thought as well.
Okay. Now I've got 2 more questions here, but then I have one of my own, and when I'm sitting here listening to you, looking at your tank, I see 2 fish in there that I want, and I want you to tell me if I can not have yours, but if I can get those for my tank. One is the super red one that looks like an arrowhead. I love that guy. And then the other one is like, it just switched over to you for a second, and it showed it's like a deep blue color, and it was just right in the center. It still is. I can see your little picture there, right in the center of your tank right now. I would like to know if I can get those 2 fish in my 24-gallon tank.
Yep, you sure can. One of those fish, the blue one, are going to be called chromis, Chromis, I believe is the spelling on that. If you'll jot that and look it up.
I'm typing it right now.
There you go. And the red one, if you're talking about the red one, I'm thinking you're talking about this guy, right?
No, the other one that was just about to swim in front of him, the one with the bars. Yeah, that one.
This one is actually orange. I don't know if the camera's showing it right now. He should be orange with black stripes. That is a flame angel. That is my favorite fish of all time in this tank. Fish. Now, the risky thing, this is a dwarf angelfish. And dwarf angels have a bad reputation for eating corals, a well-deserved reputation. So at this point, I'm just counting the days before this guy starts eating my corals and costing me money. If he does, I'll have to remove him. But I've had him in my tank for about 7 months, and you know, he's doing well. So I would say this: you can add him to your tank. But he needs a little more room, honestly. Most dwarf angels need 40 to 60 gallons usually. So I'm kind of on the small side as far as the recommended size for that guy. He maxes out around 4.5 or 5 inches. So I probably could have it. I would say, you know, if it was me, you know, I would try it. But if you're trying to be technically right, you shouldn't have it because your tank's a little small. But just keep in mind, at the end of the day, if you do have one of these guys, they may eventually eat your corals. And I've had issues with angelfish eating my corals before. So just keep that in mind. If someone at the pet store says, hey, this guy may not eat it, or he's 50-50 chance, or he probably won't touch anything, they're lying. All angelfish eventually eat corals. It's just when it happens in your tank that you got to deal with it.
Okay. Now, what about that other red one that you showed me? What was that one? And can I have him?
Yeah, that guy's a flame hawk. Yeah, you can have that guy. He doesn't get much bigger than that. And he doesn't swim a lot. Doesn't need a lot of swimming space. Now, the only caution I would say, those guys are notorious for eating shrimp. At one point in time, I had 5 or 6 shrimp in my tank. Gorgeous looking shrimp. Red ones, white ones, stripes. You know, I had peppermint shrimp. I had fire shrimp. I had cleaner shrimp. I had all of them. And that guy and one of my other fish ate them up. So just be careful with that. But definitely tons of personality. He perches, looks around, reacts to you. You can have one of those guys for sure.
Okay, good. All right, so now there's another great question that came in from Chris Cabrera that IFG sent me, but you've already answered it, and it was the question about anemones when I asked you if I'm ready for an anemone. So you answered that very well, so no need to go back there. And that question has actually been sitting there for me for a while. So sorry, Chris, that I stole your question, but I wanted to put it out there because it was definitely a good question. So the next one, and this is the last one that I've got. And after you answer this, maybe you can switch back over to your beautiful face, and we can wrap this.
No problem.
Up. So I'm a grown man. I'm not afraid to admit that another man has a beautiful face. So now that I've made this good and weird, Luis,
I'm comfortable.
I'm going to go ahead and say Luis Velasquez is how I'm going to pronounce his name. And this is a great question, and I can't believe I didn't ask it already. CJ, how often should I do a water change on my 54-gallon cube, and what percentage should I change?
Ooh-wee. That is the highly debated one. So I'm going to speak from my experience on this, because that's what I can prove to you. If your nitrates are not an issue, first and foremost, your nitrates are going to be your main measuring stick for when you need to do your water change. The second thing you want to make sure basing your water changes off is how fast your tank uses calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. Those numbers will drop over time as your corals absorb them. So with those two things in mind, normally, you know, there's some kind of miss thing in the hobby. I don't know why, who started this saying all you need is a 10% a week if you're trying to maintain your water quality. I would say go more than that. I change 40 to 50% of my water volume every week. Keep in mind, I only have 30 gallons of water, so you're looking at 3 5-gallon buckets a week. That's what I do to maintain my water. So in your tank, if you don't have many fish, I would say maybe, you know, anywhere in that range, 20 to 40%. If your tank is lightly stocked, mine's overstocked, and you should be fine.
Okay. Now I'm gonna correct myself here, because if Chris Cabrera is still watching this, he's going, damn it, John, that's not the question I asked at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask you his question, and then we'll get to the beautiful face part. Mm-hmm. So Chris Cabrera's question, again, I read this wrong before. Should you, and it's a little bit weird here the way he asked it. I'm going to try to decipher it. Should you let, all right, hold on. Let me proofread it here for a second. All right, I'm going to just summarize it. Should you allow an anemone to settle in case it moves? Should you allow it to settle in before you go out and buy another coral to make sure, I guess, that anemone doesn't move and cover up another one or something like that?
Yeah, that actually is a great question. I would say yes. You may, if you're patient enough to make it that far along in your tank, you know, 4, 5, 6 months from the beginning, and you haven't already filled your corals in your tank everywhere, then I would say yes. Add that anemone. Give it time to find its spot it wants. You know, depending on the flow and the lighting of your tank, it's going to walk around and find its own happy spot. Keep in mind, it's not guaranteed to stay that way in the life of your tank. Then add your corals after it's settled. So yeah, I would give it time, a couple weeks or so. Make sure it's not moving around. And then when you start adding corals, add them carefully. Now, mounting corals is a whole other topic of conversation, but just keep in mind there are more permanent and temporary solutions with mounting corals. You know, putty that dries hard as cement, adding corals to a tank with anemones is probably not my recommendation, because, you know, if the coral walks over it, you're stuck and you can't get the coral off. It's over, it just burns it and kills it up. I would recommend, if possible, just use super glue or the reef gel glue, some type of reef safe super glue, and add corals after that anemone settled, just in case you got to rescue your coral and move it. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, I guess what I've gotten out of this, and I'm not going to follow what I'm about to say, because I'm going to start with smaller, cheaper corals first. But if you're setting up a tank that you know is going to be a reef, and you know you're going to end up having anemones in there, probably the safest bet is to get them first, let them settle in, and then plant all the other stuff around and all of that. That makes sense. I mean, that makes total sense, especially when you consider the price tag that I have seen on quite a few of these corals. My God, it's outrageous. But you were saying some of those are $5, $6 or whatever. That sounds real good to me. Now look, yeah, you just showed that yellowfish. What's that yellowfish too?
Yellow chorus wrasse. This is one you will not be able to have in your tank. He buries himself at night.
Okay.
So he buries himself, and I got another Christmas wrasse in here that also buries himself. So does not, but he is hiding from the camera, so can't find that guy. But yeah, definitely so. I'm getting ready to switch his camera around. Give me a second.
Now I'm going to ask you too, while you're making the switch. This will be the last question, I promise, and then we're going to wrap this up. The snails and the cool little crabs and things like that. Every single crab I've ever seen in a fish store is in a tank that's sand, and they're always like sifting through it. And the shrimp and stuff like that, it seems like they do it too. I don't know. I mean, I was thinking my next purchase was probably going to be a shrimp. I mean, am I good with that? And maybe a couple of those fish that you suggested?
Yeah, I mean, definitely sounds good. Shrimp add tons of personality, and movement to your tank. I love shrimp. Now they're not really tolerant of swings in your parameters. So rock solid parameters, yeah, go get your shrimp. Now some shrimp are expensive though. 25, $30 for a shrimp. So if you lose a few of them, it's going to quickly add up. Shrimp and get you a fish that is not going to potentially eat the shrimp, because a lot of fish eat shrimp as well. So that's what I would say. Go for it, man. You'll be good.
Well, that's exciting, because that, like I said, that was one of my plans, was to get one of those, and maybe a snail or something. I mean, in the freshwater hobby, we hate snails, but in the saltwater hobby, I hear people talking about them all the time. So, so that's really cool. I think that maybe one of those fish and maybe a shrimp and a snail or something like that will be my next addition to the tank. And then maybe in the near future, Christmas time or something, maybe I'll start adding a couple of corals here and there. I'm excited about that, but I'm also patient. I mean, it's like, if I don't get to do it for another month or so, no big deal. I love my little clowns. They keep me company while I'm sitting here at my desk, and believe me, I sit here at this desk a lot.
Right, and watch that tank. It's definitely an expensive hobby. Take your time. It took me over a year to fill this tank up. I mean, literally, I was grabbing maybe 1 or 2 things a month. We all get paid. We all work jobs. I'm not rich. I'm like everyone else. I work and I got extra money. I buy a coral. So that's it. So yeah, take your time and get a shrimp, and get you a coral that it will grow. So you will get to enjoy that, man. You get your little $5, $10 frag while you're waiting a month or two to get some new coral. Keep an eye on that thing, and trust me, you'll be rewarding. It's so rewarding, man. Much more rewarding than freshwater. I don't know. No offense to anyone.
Oh man, you just done broke the rule there.
I dropped the bomb. I dropped the bomb, didn't I?
No, I explained this in a video, and I think that you've probably experienced this too, because you did the total transition from freshwater all the way over to saltwater, whereas for me, I've still got all of this stuff behind me, and they ain't going anywhere. And I, got this one little saltwater tank, but I explained it in a video that this has completely revitalized the hobby for me. I mean, it brought me back to that feeling I had as a teenager, where everything was new and everything was exciting. And back then, though, the difference between John Hudson then and John Hudson now is that I would want that now. I mean, I was the kind of idiot that would go and get a credit card and just fully max it out and buy all that stupid stuff, which is why I was always broke, because I was always had the phone ringing with people wanting their money. But that was the kind of mistake that I would make back then. And now it's fun. I mean, if I was to go to the pet store tomorrow, which I'm not, but if I was to go to the pet store tomorrow and buy one of those $5 or $6 frags, I would just enjoy the hell out of that. It would be so fun to just sit there and watch that little thing, just sit there and do nothing, but it would be fun. And so it's really, really exciting for me. And I mean, I have to thank Fluval up and down for this, because they've basically sponsored this project for me, and Coraline.
Nice. Also, it's always nice.
Yeah, I mean, I got super lucky there. I mean, I was in Chicago talking to one of the reps at Fluval, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he was like, hey, maybe we can work something out. So really, really happy about that. But it still cost me plenty of money. I mean, it's not like, everything was given to me. It's not like that at all. So, and this is an expensive hobby, but that's okay. I can just take my time with it and get one little piece at a time. If it takes me a couple of years to get a tank that looks like yours, I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm at the age where all I got is time, so I can wait. No big deal.
There you go. Look, yes, sir. No, I'm just messing with you. You ain't that old, man. You ain't that old. But yeah, hey, definitely rewarding, man. So I'm looking forward to watching your journey and process. Don't be afraid to document the bad stuff, man. That's all I'll say. Don't hide it.
Well, I did.
Man. It's great.
I don't know if you saw my most recent saltwater video. I did document the bad. I'm so glad I thought of this too. I documented how one of my clowns jumped out of the tank, and and he ended up on the floor. So I'm really glad this came up. What is the deal with lids? Does your tank have a lid on it?
It does. Now I take it off for filming purposes, because the lid and the light and the camera just doesn't work as well. But yeah, I've had casualties. I've had suicides. I lost 4 fish. A flame angel jumped out of my tank. One of those expensive fish. Those are $60 fish where I live. Just fish potato chip on the floor. $60 potato chip. So definitely, I do use a screen top on my tank. And right now, even talking to you on this live feed, if you haven't paid attention, you may not have noticed it. I'm kind of glancing, because that flame hawk and that yellowfish they'll torpedo out of the tank. They have before. I've had to get them off the floor, put them back in. So happens all the time. use a top. For anyone in the saltwater hobby, learn it the easy way or the hard way. Save the money, get you a top. Otherwise, you're gonna have some suicides.
I don't know why this fluval setup didn't come with one then. I mean, it came with everything else. How come it didn't come with that? That blows me away. I don't, you know, but hey, I mean, what am I going to do? I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I'll go get a lid. It's not a big deal. I mean, a couple of people have suggested like the light diffuser grid type stuff, which I think would look pretty nice. Maybe I'll go with something like that. I don't know, but
well, keep in mind, you know, those fish found a way through it. This is what I use, the screen top. This is from BRS. The kit, I think this one was like $25-$30. Keep in mind, I lost over $100 worth of fish before I purchased this. So just do the math on how smart that decision was. Should have did this first.
that's a no-brainer. Absolutely. That'll be my next purchase for sure. So, well, dude, I can't tell you how excited this makes me to finally have a conversation with someone. Now, you're probably wondering, why did that dummy not just go to the pet store and talk with people about saltwater tanks? The reason for it is because, like I said in that video, the closest one is 2 hours away. And everything else for me, I actually take that back. The closest saltwater shop is about an hour and a half away. But they don't sell RO water. The one that sells RO water is 2 hours away. But anyway, if you go to one of the big box stores, PetSmart, Petco, whatever, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, I bought these clowns at Petco, and I'm not ashamed of it. I mean, because that was the closest thing to me, and, you know, they looked super healthy, and everything looked fine, and they've been fine for me. But when it comes to corals and stuff like that, I'm not going to buy from there. But also to go into a store like that, I got a lot of respect for anybody that works in the pet industry, but sometimes I don't have all that much confidence in getting my information from employees at some of those stores. Now, the mom and pop shops whose livelihood depends on giving me good information, that's different. And I would take that all day. But, you know, I just, with everything I have going on, I'm not going to drive an hour and a half just to talk to a guy, and you know what I mean, and not be able to do it. So
let me tell you this. I know we're getting ready to go, but I'm assuming you're getting ready to make a coral purchase here very soon. I can feel it. I can feel it in your bones. It's coming out.
I think it's going to happen.
So, yeah. Let me just 3 things. Do not skip the coral dip. I just can't stress that enough. And before you purchase that coral, make sure that it's open and healthy. It doesn't show any signs of its, you know, tissue falling off of it, or anything that looks like it's foreign on the coral that shouldn't be there. Don't let you wanting a coral so bad outweigh your better judgment if you look at something that just doesn't seem right. That's my best word of advice. And that's all I'll leave it there.
Well, it's great advice, because I literally know nothing about shopping for corals. What I'm hoping happens, and this is going to sound so stupid, but it happened with these clowns. So what I'm hoping happens is I go into this shop in saltwater, and because I have a YouTube channel that's a pretty good size, I'm fantasizing about the idea that the guy might actually know who I am. It happened with these clowns, and it was Lisa. It wasn't me. She went to the store, and the dude at the store was like, "Oh my God, it's Lisa from KGTropicals. Are you kidding me?" And he took care of her, and it was awesome. I hope that happens there, because
well, it sounds like you need to send Lisa to that store by herself without you.
You know what? Like. She makes things happen. I'm not going to lie to you.
There you go.
And she's going to be with me, because look, I mean, I'm not going to pick something like that out without her, because she has to like it. Otherwise it doesn't get bought. So, I mean, you know, my house is just like any other house. She has to give the okay before I can spend them dollars. So that's the way it works.
Well, yeah, if not the okay, you got to buy some of equal value for them. That's how it works around here. So we'll see.
And if you're talking about $100 corals and stuff like that, we could be in big trouble.
Yeah, we in trouble, man.
But my hope is, again, you know, I'll go in. I'm being silly when I say I hope they know who I am, but when I explain to them who I am, I don't want any special treatment or anything like that. Why would they treat me special? But my hope is that they would allow me in that shop to actually document me buying that first coral. I think that would be cool. Maybe it would be something that I do. Well, right now it would have to be on Facebook, Facebook. But what I've heard, I don't know if you know about this yet, YouTube is actually getting ready to introduce mobile YouTube live streaming, just like Facebook has. So hopefully that's out by then, and I can, you know, stream right to YouTube right from the pet store. And get some education from the guy about exactly what it is that I'm buying. Basically take me to the discount rack, and
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping.
but definitely do it. Now you can stream from your phone, man. Even before YouTube does that, I'm glad you told me that, 'cause I'm looking forward to it. There's an app called Wirecast Go that I use for anyone that has a phone and want to stream. Wirecast Go on iPhone. It's like a $5 app.
I do have that.
Right. You can stream right to your YouTube from that. That's what I use. So it works.
Stupid me. I can't believe I forgot that. I did buy that. But I'm going to tell you, maybe you and I can talk after we finish the broadcast here. Every time I use it, the screen is flipped, and it drives me crazy. And maybe it's because I flipped the screen to have my actual phone screen facing me so that I can see myself. And maybe that's why it does it. I don't know. But I did. I paid the $5 and got Wirecast Go. I can't believe I forgot that. But
got you covered. I'll definitely get you together. No worries, man.
All right, good. So, yeah. All right. Wait a minute. We got one more thing here. Because IFG asked a question, and if IFG asks a question, I can't ignore it. I gotta have you answer it because he's my guy.
Tell him this is coming from a stranger online. And trust his own opinion first before I answer him.
IFG asks, are the rumors true about damsels as far as aggression is concerned? Also, are they hard to net once they're in your tank? Damsels. I don't know what a damsel is.
Hell yes. A damsel is going to be any of those little fish in the cheap section when they take you in that store that has the $5 price tag or whatever. The little cute guys swim around, plenty of colorful fish. Yes, they are complete assholes. Excuse my French. And I had some in this tank that caused so much aggression that it fueled the ick that I already had problems with in my tank. Definitely stay away from those guys, man. Unless you got a tank that's small enough to where you can net them easily without tearing your whole tank down. I was lucky. I had to take out some of my rock work to get it out. I got a video on my channel for that as well. If anyone curious. It's titled Catching Damsels, actually. Go back, check it out. I recorded the whole process of trying to catch that damn fish, which I did. So definitely be careful of that. They are aggressive. They will take over your tank, and they will cause you pure hell, man. IFG, you must be going salt here soon. I can feel it.
No, he can't do that. IFG is an African cichlid guy, and he better stay that way. He can't go salt. Salt is mine. I'm going to take over the saltwater world.
There you go.
Who am I kidding? No, I hope he does, man. It'd be fun to actually go through this journey with somebody together that I actually know. We could bounce ideas off and bother the hell out of you with asking you questions all the time. That'd be a lot of fun. So, well, look, let's go ahead and start winding this thing down here because you know me, I can talk all night long, and we're already almost going on 2 hours.
Yeah, my window's almost up. Wife gonna come down here and kill me in a second. You're gonna witness a live feed murder.
Well, right. You're about to see the same thing here. It could happen double. It could be double because Lisa is leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning to fly to California to see her son that is in the Marine Corps, and so she's like probably at the top of the stairs right now, tapping her toes too. So. I definitely have to cut it off too. So we're in the same boat. If I let it go much longer, she's going to be coming down here and there will be hell to pay. So, but look, I appreciate it very much. This has been fun. I learned more. I'm not just kissing your ass. I learned more than I thought I was going to. And that speaks volumes to your presentation, the way you do it. You approach this kind of like I do the freshwater hobby. Let's keep it simple. Let's not jump the gun. Let's not go crazy. Let's keep this all simple. And I love that about you. I think that's awesome. And you know what? Starting a saltwater tank and maintaining a saltwater tank is a long process. I'm going to go through a lot of ups and downs. So I'd love to do this again. I don't know what you think about it.
Sounds good to me. Hey, we'll let the masses in the comment and all that stuff. We'll see what they say. I'm with it. I'm all for it, man.
Good.
I love talking. I'm telling you, that's all good. We're gonna get this schedule down a little better, but I'm all for it. And I'll be lurking in the like comments and all that stuff too on your updates. If I see something, I might shoot you a message. I don't like dropping bombs on comments, but I'll be in touch.
Well, you're a rare breed then, because most people just boom, put it right on out there.
Right.
But all right, so folks, if you have not seen CJ's Aquariums yet, If you think the tank he was just showing was beautiful, if you don't, then you're crazy. If you think that tank is beautiful and you want to see more of it, go and subscribe to that guy's channel. Why wouldn't you? I mean, he's full of information. He's not going to talk to you like you're some kind of idiot. He's going to keep things bare bones, simple, talk to you about his experiences, things that he's going through. I love that. I love that about your channel. And, you know, I once again, I can't thank you enough. So everybody who is watching this, go subscribe to CJ's Aquariums. His you just changed your thumbnail. I was going to say your old thumbnail doesn't look at all like you look. It's kind of weird. So,
yep.
But you changed your thumbnail.
I switch it up, man.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever talked to him, folks. And when I saw him on video for the first time, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not CJ. That's not the guy I've been looking at the picture of. So, yeah, that's my appearance is always changing so much. I just put my logo, and that way I never run into that problem. So, but
there you go.
This has been a blast. I can't thank you enough. And I'm going to do with you the same thing I did with Sean last week. I'm going to let you close the show for me.
All right. Hey, that'll work. And once again, hey, thank you, John, for getting me out here, man. This is my first time doing any kind of collaboration with someone live like this and on a channel that has this many people. I've been on Reef Talk with Ryder Tube Reef and Mal Reef. Shout out to you guys. You guys get a quick plug. But other than that, this is it. So I appreciate it. But that being said, hey, come check out my channel. Frequent updates. I may do a contest here and there. I'm getting close to 5K. You guys can get me there, and I'll definitely keep it real with you. So as I always say on my videos, hey, you guys like, comment, subscribe. You guys do what y'all do. Y'all be easy. Happy reefing.